and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl. And once again, I got my great friend Dominick here from Fantasy Hot Read. Dominick, how are you doing?
Alice, it's been too long. I'm doing all right, making it through, and that's all we can do right now. So let's get this started. And it's great to finally have a new football season to deal with.
Hey, we are in season 3 of the podcast, you guys. I love having Dominick here. We are so excited for 2021 because we don't have a pandemic-induced one. It's going to be a little bit crazy to get through a whole season. Let's see what we can do. But we are at week 1, so let's get started. Starting with our Thursday night matchup. We got the Dallas Cowboys headed to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, both these teams are really good. I think obviously they picked Dallas because it's going to be it's a really marquee matchup, and they didn't want to use a division game for this one. But I really like both of these teams. I think Dallas can be very good this year. I do think Washington is going to win the division, but in this game, I just think that Tampa Bay is going to come out storming, and I think they're going to take over Dallas. I don't know if Dak's leg is completely healed. We know he's had some shoulder issues in training camp. He has some great wide receivers, but the secondary and the whole defense of Tampa Bay is really good as well. So I really like Tampa Bay here to win their debut after their Super Bowl.
You guys, the question mark starting this season is going to be how healthy is that ankle of Dak Prescott? I know during training camp there was some issues with his shoulder. There was some swelling. It seemed to be minor. He was back after a few weeks. It's fine. I'm not worried about his shoulder. It is that ankle and how well that ankle is going to hold up. And we're going to get our first taste of that come week 1. They are headed to Tampa Bay. They are facing the Super Bowl winners right out the gate. And the beautiful thing about Tampa is they've held on to damn near everybody. So we're talking about a stout, stacked team, ready to rip and roar, ready to get started and see whether or not they can get either repeat or get close to repeating. That being said, they're playing at home in Tampa Bay. As much as I want to see Dallas play well, I don't. Absolutely got to give this to Tampa Bay. They're still fired up. They're still ready to go, and they kept all of their key pieces. Got to give it to the Bucs at home. Moving on to Sunday, we got the Philadelphia Eagles headed to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, I don't think either of these teams are going to be very good this year. The Eagles, they have a good offensive line as long as they stay healthy this year. We don't know what to expect from Jalen Hurts. I think Miles Sanders is actually a little bit overrated at the moment. I really like Mike Davis this year, especially for fantasy. So I think he's going to be really good as a pass catching back there in Atlanta. We know they don't have Julio Jones anymore, but Calvin Ridley is just another stud in a long line of studs that they've had at the wide receiver, going back to Julio, and before that, they had Roddy White. So I do think that Atlanta being at home, I think they are going to pull this week 1 game out against Philadelphia.
I'm like you when it comes to Philadelphia. I'm not 100% sure what we're getting out of Jalen Hurts. It's not that I don't like this kid. I really, really do. It's one of those question mark situations. And not that he didn't have good games last season. I cannot hold up over an entire 17-week season. Not thoroughly impressed by Miles Sanders and what he's done. Mike Davis has had a good history coming out of Carolina. I'm always sure that Matty Ice, when he starts out the season, always starts out well. Whether or not it finishes well is another story, but he usually starts out pretty fast and then they stumble somewhere around three or 4. Them being at home, definitely got to take the Falcons at home. I just don't see Jalen Hurts being able to get it done. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers headed to Buffalo to face the Bills. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's on their way down a little bit. We have to see what Najee Harris can do. The defense in Buffalo looks like it's very strong. Obviously it's just the preseason, but they did look pretty strong. Josh Allen had an amazing preseason after an amazing season last year. Being at home, and I just think that they're going to come out hot. They want to get their first win. Pittsburgh's not going to have to worry about going undefeated this year because they're going to lose in the first week.
You and I are dead on all of these picks so far. You guys, Big Ben, the argument I keep giving to people is I don't see Big Ben going a full 17 weeks. I know at some point during the season, he is going to get hurt. Is it going to be early in the season? Probably not. I expect him to get through maybe like the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, but he's going down at some point. Najee Harris, rookie, we don't fully know yet what we're going to get. These little flim-flam games in preseason, you never get the full package, so we don't know fully what to expect out of him. Whereas Buffalo has played together, solid team, love what Josh Allen's doing. He's got one of the best receivers in the league, and Stephon Diggs. The defense is stacked and solid. I'm very confident in this team. Definitely giving this game to Buffalo. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings headed to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Dominick, who you got?
Well, let's put it this way. The Bengals defense, I think, is going to be so bad that it's going to be like Kirk Cousins has maybe a plexiglass divider around him. It's going to be tough for them to get to him. Their offensive line is a lot better. Dalvin Cook could be the best running back in the league. You know, he's top 3. Obviously, they have Justin Jefferson there. I think Adam Thielen's going to have a field day as well. They did lose Irv Smith for the year, but they brought in Chris Herndon from the Jets a couple days ago through trade. So I do like what Kirk Cousins and the Vikings are going to be able to do in this game. So I'm going to give this one to Minnesota.
You guys, I want to say something positive about the Bengals. And so my thing positive about the Bengals is, hey, they got Joe Burrow back. What will Joe Burrow be able to do? I don't know. They didn't improve a whole lot on this team. Not that defense, not that O-line. So Joe Burrow is once again going to be scrambling for his life. Minnesota, meanwhile, I mean, on the defense, one of the moves I liked, even though it was kind of controversial when they did it, was they brought back Everson Griffin. Then they cut him, then they brought him back again. It's a fascinating situation considering some of the comments he made previously about Kirk Cousins, but they seem to have buried the hatchet on that. Kirk Cousins is going to be a question mark for the full season, mainly because of COVID and his stance on not getting vaccinated. But I know week 1, he's all set and ready to go. He's got the at least number 2 running back in the entire league in Dalvin Cook, who also is a pass catching back. So he's more of a threat. Definitely love what he can do. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, some of the top receivers in the league. Got to give it to Minnesota. Bengals have no shot in this game, despite the fact they're playing at home. So Vikings all the way. Next up, we got the San Francisco 49ers headed to Detroit to face the Lions. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I do think San Francisco is going to win this game, but when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. That's just a common sentiment. We don't know. We think Jimmy G is going to be the starter, but it's going to be back and forth between him and Trey Lance. Trey Lance's finger is healthy enough for him to play. He has a chip finger right now. We know that they're going to run the ball all up and down the field on this team. They can use Deebo Samuel as a running back. They can use Brandon Ayuk as a running back. Obviously, they have Raheem Mostert. They have Trey Sermon. So they have all the running that they need. If Trey Lance is in there, he's going to run the ball quite a bit as well. But to quote the great Lee Corso, closer than the experts think. I think right now the line's 7.5. I think it could be closer than a touchdown, but I do think they're still going to win this game.
You guys, 49ers not being definitive on who their QB1 is going to be in week 1. I get it. They're kind of playing coy with the whole situation. As it stands right now, Jimmy G is the starter. But it sounds like, according to Kyle Shanahan, there may be some plays when they're going to go back and forth between Jimmy G and Trey Lance. That's going to play an interesting scheme. I like Raheem Mostert there as their RB1. It's a good team, solid. I love their defense. Detroit, meanwhile, their biggest question mark, obviously, is their QB1. They made a trade in the offseason. They got Jared Goff there. What is he going to be able to do? As of right now, they have Jamal Williams as the RB1, depending on if DeAndre Swift gets healthy. I think probably not. May not see him until week 2, it sounds like. Regardless, my whole thing is that I have question marks when it comes to Jared Goff, and I have question marks at the receiver position. That being said, I personally am going to give this game to the 49ers. I think they just got a couple more weapons there, and I'm definitely convinced that they have a more solid defense. So giving it to the 49ers. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals headed to Tennessee to face the Titans. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Arizona had a big attrition this week when it looks like Malcolm Butler could possibly be retiring due to some personal things. I hope he's all right and his family's all right and everything. I hope he is able to come back. But with that being said, Tennessee still has Derrick Henry, big bad man himself. Now they have Julio Jones to go alongside A.J. Brown. I really like Ryan Tannehill this year, especially with that duo at wide receiver with Derrick Henry. Their defense may suck, but their offense is better. So I do think that even if they give up 30 points to Arizona, which they easily could, I think they can score 31. So I'm going to give this one to Tennessee.
Arizona made some improvements on their defense, some necessary improvements on their defense, but they also lost some key pieces there as well on that defense. So I kind of feel like it evened out when it comes to that defense. The offense, I like Kyler Murray. I think he's a good, not necessarily a great quarterback. I hope the addition of James Conner there is going to help that running back. You know, most likely they're going to do it by committee with Chase Edmonds. We'll see. Tennessee, meanwhile, you cannot sleep on Derrick Henry and what this man can do. And Ryan Tannehill having Derrick Henry there has put up astounding numbers. Now the addition of Julio Jones there, I get it. Everybody's like, he's on a decline. He's older now. He doesn't have the same speed. He also has been playing with Matt Ryan. I think a slightly younger quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, you'll see more of the Julio of old. Will he ever be the Julio of like 2015 or something like that? Most likely not. But can he be better than what he was, say, last season? Hell yes. Hell yes. I definitely have confidence in him and what he can do, especially because he has A.J. Brown there. You got to decide which one of them you're going to double up. Personally, I like what Arizona did, but I love what Tennessee's done. So I got to give it, and they're at home, so definitely giving this one to the Titans, no question. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks headed to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I love the Colts this year. I think they're going to win that division, especially now that Carson Wentz isn't going to miss any time, and they have Quinnen Williams back as well. But I think they're going to start this one off with a loss. I do like Seattle as well. I don't think they're the best team in their division. I think they're probably third in their division, but I do like Russell Wilson going into Indianapolis. So talked about COVID. Indianapolis is one of the least vaccinated teams in the league, so we have to worry about what's going to happen with that coming into the game. So with that being said, Eric Fisher, they're signing from the free agency to play left tackle, still has a torn ACL. He's going to miss the first couple weeks. So as good as their line is, it's going to be a little weakened. So we don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. So with that said, Seattle's only favored by 1 point in this one. I do think they're going to cover that. I think they'll win this game by about a field goal.
Indianapolis bringing Carson Wentz in there, and Carson, again, you're going to hear me repeat this as a theme, unfortunately. Carson Wentz being anti-vax is going to be an issue at some point in the season. Now, fortunately, that hasn't been now. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's ready to get started. He's got Jonathan Taylor as his RB1. Unfortunately, he did lose T.Y. Hilton for the first few weeks of the season. They're hoping to have him back somewhere like week 4 or 5, somewhere around there, whatever he'll be back. For now, that's going to be an issue for them. Russell Wilson, always looking good out there. He's got good, again, not great receivers, but he's got really solid receivers. I'll say that. They're coming in there. I know there's always a question of West Coast teams coming east and, whether or not that affects them in some ways. And it does typically, but I know how well Russell Wilson plays, and especially in week 1. I have confidence in him. I definitely am giving this game to the Seahawks in week 1. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Chargers headed to Washington to face the football team. Dominic, who you got?
This is actually a really tough game for me to pick because I love both of these teams. I do think Washington's going to win the division, the NFC East this year. The Chargers, obviously, I don't think they're going to win the West with the Chiefs being there, but I certainly think they have a good chance to make the playoffs. I love Justin Herbert. I love Austin Eckler. Obviously, Keenan Allen's there as well. The defense in Washington is just massive right now. They're a monster. I think they're going to be the best defense in the league this year. I actually thought this game was in Los Angeles, but now that I hear that it's in Washington, I think I'm going to have to change my pick. I'm going to have to go with Washington in this one.
Justin Herbert won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he put up phenomenal numbers in the process. This kid is so dynamic to watch. But the difference is now, I always tell people when a QB is headed into their sophomore season, we now have film on them. So we can now start to scheme against them. Will he have the same production that he had last year? I don't believe so. Will he have a significant drop-off? Absolutely not, because he's still got great receivers there. And so I'm 1,000% confident in him. And he has Austin Eckler there. Have no worries whatsoever about what Herbert is going to do. The numbers won't be quite what they were last year. Washington, meanwhile, I never know what the hell I'm getting out of Washington. I do like the fact that they are starting with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, you never know what you're going to get with him. I call him Fitz Magic and Fitz Tragic, because at some point in the season, it all falls apart. Will it fall apart in week 1? Absolutely not. He's a great quarterback in week 1. I can't explain it, but he really is a great quarterback in week 1. They're playing there in Washington. I want to pick Washington because I know my dad would love it, but I got to go with the Chargers. I just have a little bit more faith in their receivers and a little bit more faith in Austin Eckler. So I'm giving it to Chargers.
You just hurt your dad more than when Mina Kimes sent back his Christmas card.
I promise you. I know I did. And I know you're listening, Dad. I'm so sorry. Next up, we got the New York Jets headed to Carolina for the Sam Darnold revenge game. Dominic, who you got?
I think these are two actually evenly matched teams. They both suck pretty bad. I do think that the weapons in Carolina are better. Obviously, I would take Christian McCaffrey over Michael Carter or Tevin Coleman. DJ Moore there. Robbie Anderson's there as well. I would take them over top of any of the receivers they have, at least right now with the Jets. They don't really have a tight end with the Jets either right now. Of course, the Carolina Panthers never have a tight end. So it really comes down to who's going to play better, Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson. Being that everybody gets better when they leave Adam Gase, I believe in Sam Darnold just a little bit more right now than I do in Zach Wilson, and it is in Carolina, so I am going to take the Panthers to pull this one out.
Hey, I'm going to have to agree with you on this because it's the Sam Darnold revenge game. And Sam Darnold has something to prove. We saw that Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold came out at the same time. Josh Rosen has been all over the league, hasn't found a home. I feel like Sam Darnold has something he needs to prove. He needs to prove that those seasons under Adam Gase are why he didn't succeed. And now here in Carolina, he's getting another opportunity to prove he is a great QB. And it's against the team that he used to play for. Admittedly, they don't have the same coach there anymore, so he can't prove it to Gase that he isn't a bust, but he can prove it to that team. He can prove it to the owners. He can prove it to some of the players he used to play with. And he has Christian McCaffrey there. My goodness. Christian McCaffrey is one of the top 5 running backs in the league. He has Robbie Anderson. They just signed Robbie Anderson to a long-term extension, meaning they see potential in Robbie Anderson. And he's got DJ Moore on the other side. Come on now, you guys. I got to give it to Sam Darnold. I got to give it to these Panthers. I'm not 100% sold yet on Zach Wilson. I've been impressed by what I've seen in preseason. But again, these rookie QBs, once the hot lights is on them, we don't know what we're going to get. Got way, way more confidence in Carolina and what they can do, giving this one to the Panthers.
Yeah, and don't forget, Sam Darnold is still very young. He's actually younger now than Joe Burrow was when he was drafted last year.
Exactly. And the kid got something to prove, and he's got heart. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars headed to Houston to face the Texans. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, you and I both talked earlier in the offseason about how much we did not like the hiring of Urban Meyer and how we didn't think it was going to work. It just shows that it's been a train wreck down there already. They're already backpedaling, saying that, it's not because of vaccinations that this person was released and this person was kept and all that kind of stuff. So they're already having to cover his butt there. Houston, obviously, is just a train wreck covered in a trash heap. But I do think that I like Tyrod Taylor better right now than I do Trevor Lawrence, just because, again, he is a veteran. He's been there. I do like Brandon Cooks. As much as everybody likes to hate on Brandon Cooks, he always has 1,000 yards receiving. I personally like David Johnson this year. I think he's going to be able to come back a little bit. We know that in the past, he's been a very good pass catching down back there. This game is going to be in Houston. Both of these teams, I would love to say both these teams are going to go winless, but they play each other twice, so it's not going to happen. I do think Jacksonville's the better team, but I think in this week 1, Houston's going to win.
You guys, these are 2 terrible teams. 2 terrible, terrible, terrible teams. That's all I could honestly tell you. I don't know what Urban Meyer is capable of doing. I know he won on the college level, but that is the college level. This is a whole different ballgame when you're playing here in the pros, and I don't fully know what to expect. He's already making some errors in judgment on what he's saying into the media. You got to be careful when you're playing in the pros. You can't get away with certain things that you say on a college level. He has Trevor Lawrence there. Again, I watched Trevor Lawrence. Every game of preseason of Trevor Lawrence was not impressed at all. I know they didn't open their full playbook, so didn't get to see everything, so we don't know all the schemes and everything that they have planned. Maybe once the season gets started, there'll be more to watch. But as it stands right now, totally not impressed by this team. And I like Trevor Lawrence's receivers. It's just the whole point of, can he get the ball to them? They brought in Marvin Jones, and that's mainly who he's been targeting, but he has DJ Chark there. He has Laviska Shenault still there. He's got James Robinson in the backfield. Even though they lost Etienne, I still believe that they'll get a couple wins. This will not be the one, though. And the reason I say that is I have more faith in Tyrod Taylor, because Tyrod Taylor, only reason he didn't get an opportunity to start last season is because of a freakish accident that happened prior to a game. And that kind of he never got a shot after Justin Herbert stepped on the field. That wasn't a fair thing that happened. I'm hoping that Houston will actually give him a shot there. I understand it's a whole messy situation on why he's the QB1. I'm not getting into any of that. I like Brandon Cooks. I like David Johnson. I have faith in them at least in week 1. What's going to happen down the road further along around week 5 and 7 and 9, I ain't getting into that. As of week 1, got to give it to the Texans. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns headed to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I think Kansas City comes out strong every year. They do that because Andy Reid plays his starters in the preseason where some coaches don't. Like the Rams don't play any of their starters, and a couple other teams I've followed that trend as well. It's the opposite for Andy Reid. He's played his starters in all 3 games. Cleveland, for some reason, even when they have a good team, even last year when they had a good team, they came out and just crapped the bed in week 1. They lost by like 35 points. They did the year before as well. This one being in Kansas City against possibly the best team in the entire NFL, I do think they're going to lose again in week 1, so I am going to take Kansas City, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, though. It could be like 42-30.
You guys, this is going to be such a good game. And I keep going back and forth because I really, really like what some of the moves that Cleveland made, but they're going to Kansas City. And it is hard to win in Arrowhead Stadium. Those fans are back. They're going to be loud and raucous. They're going to be ready to get behind the Chiefs 1,000%. I'm excited to see what this team can do after losing the Super Bowl. Like, are they ready to get back on a roll and show that they're ready to make it to a 3rd Super Bowl in a row? We'll see. Love Patrick Mahomes. He's my favorite QB in the NFL right now. Love his receivers. Tyreek Hill no one could come close to what Tyreek Hill can do. And he has the best tight end in the league in Travis Kelce. Cleveland, I like Baker. I really do. That RB running back situation with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I love that because Nick Chubb is your bruiser back, and then Kareem Hunt is a pass catcher out of the backfield. So I like that combination there. He's got OBJ coming back healthy. Yes, I do think that this could be a high-flying game, despite the fact that they both made some great changes on their defense and should be stout this season and should be able to stop some of those deep threats. We'll see, though. So because it's in Kansas City, if this was in Cleveland, I probably would pick the Browns, but because it's in Kansas City, in Arrowhead Stadium, gotta give it to the Chiefs. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins headed to New England to face the Patriots. Dominic, who you got?
I love that the Patriots went with Mac Jones. I do really like him. I'm on the Ryan Wilson from CBS bandwagon. I do like McCorkle Jones here. I do think that because they picked him, that it was good that they got rid of Cam Newton. You don't want him having to look over his shoulder and seeing a major veteran back like that. I do think that it's, from what I understand, Cam Newton's going to go down there to Columbus and try and get Bishop Sycamore back on the straight and narrow and possibly be their starting quarterback to get him moving. But we'll have to see. I do think it's good for the Patriots. It seems like they always start the year in Miami and they always lose because it's so hot down there in Miami in the beginning of the year. This one's up at home, but I do think Tua is going to have a pretty good game. At least I do think that Myles Gaskin is as well. And even though Miami's the underdog and they always play New England well, I do think that with McCorkle making his first start and not really knowing what's going to happen there with the wide receivers, I'm going to take Miami to win this game.
Miami had Ryan Fitzpatrick there last season and then decided to move on to Tua. And Tua kind of struggled a little bit. I have more faith in Tua this season, though. I really think that he's going to show that he's a solid QB and that he's a solid QB1, that he deserved that job. I know it was kind of controversial last year. It's not at all controversial this year. Mac Jones got the starting job. I 1,000% agree with you, Dominic. It was the smart decision on their part for them to get rid of Cam Newton. Where Cam is going to land, I don't know. There's several teams that have some interest in him, but certain things would have to happen in order for him to go to any of those places. And keep in mind, he wants to be a QB1. So that would have been pressure on Mac Jones. And now he doesn't feel that pressure. He knows he's solidly the QB1. He's not going to be having to look over his shoulder. He has Damian Harris in his backfield. That defense is great. Don't have any worries there. Oh, goodness. This one's actually hard for me. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with New England because I kind of want to see, I kind of have a little bit of faith in Mac Jones, and I want to see what he can do. Of all the rookie QBs, I kind of have a little more faith in Mac Jones than I do some of the other ones there. So that's who I'm going with. Give it to the Patriots. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers headed actually to Jacksonville to face the New Orleans Saints. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, if this game was in New Orleans, I think it would be a lot closer. We know this, obviously, teams build their teams around the stadium they play in. So we know that New Orleans is built around speed, being on the turf in the Superdome. Hopefully they'll be able to get back there in October. But I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a great year. Personally, for fantasy reasons, I'm super glad that Jameis Winston was picked the quarterback, not Taysom Hill, because I think he really is going to help the rest of this team with fantasy. But being that this game is going to be outdoors in Duval County, Green Bay's used to playing outdoors on the grass. Aaron Rodgers. I said last year he was going to be on a revenge tour. I think this year is going to be the same. I don't think we're giving our picks at the end of the show, but my pick for the Super Bowl is actually Green Bay this year. As much as I hate to say it, as you know, I'm a Saints fan. I think Green Bay is going to destroy New Orleans this week.
I would like to say the same thing, but I'm going to go the opposite direction. I like the Packers. I know Aaron Rodgers has something to prove this season. He wants the hell up out of Green Bay. That means he's going to put up solid numbers because he's going to try and prove to other teams that he isn't washed up and he can go somewhere else and get wins. And he's not going to do it anymore in Green Bay. I am with him 1,000%. Do what you do, homie. I hope you do land somewhere else and they're happy and get another Super Bowl win. That's just my feeling on that. New Orleans, meanwhile, Jameis Winston is hit or miss. That's just who he is. He'll throw you 30 touchdowns and he'll throw you 30 interceptions. You just got to know that with him going in. Why did they go with Jameis over Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill is a gadget QB. You kind of want to have him open for other plays that where you can bring him in as a tight end or on a wildcat play or something to that effect. So you don't want him as your QB1. You want him to be able to run other different types of plays and schemes for it. So I get why they made the decision to go with Jameis as a QB1. Is that going to bite them in the ass at some point during the season? It might, but he's got good receivers there. He's got one of the top running backs in the league in Alvin Kamara. So if it starts to all fall apart, hand the damn ball off, let Alvin run it down everybody's throat all season long. It can work out for them. I'm not concerned. Now, the thing with Green Bay is it's going to be harder for them to get their fans in there. There's some rumor of why the New Orleans Saints chose to have this game in Jacksonville as opposed to other stadiums. It's some controversy to that, but let's just go with the fact that I'm going to pick the Saints in this game for that particular reason. So got to give it to New Orleans in this one. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos headed to New York to face the Giants. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, you were talking about Jameis Winston throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Daniel Jones may have 30 interceptions in this game. You never know what you're going to get out of Daniel Jones. Saquon's back, but we don't know how much he's going to play in this game, if he plays at all. He's still, they think he's going to play, but I think they're going to work him in. Kenny Golladay is hit or miss. He's a really good elite wide receiver, but he's not always wanting to be elite, so we'll have to see what happens there. Evan Ingram's hurt yet again, and their defense is terrible. Their offensive line is terrible. I do really like Denver. They had a great preseason. They were just crushing everybody. I'm glad that they picked Teddy Bridgewater. I think that he's better, especially for Jerry Jeudy. I think he's better. The run game, I think, is going to be very strong. Their defense is going to be strong as well. I said Green Bay was going to crush New Orleans. I think the only game that might be a bigger spread is Denver over the Giants.
I don't like the Giants at all. I do not like the Giants. And my biggest question mark is the same one I had last season, Daniel Jones. This is a prove-it season for Daniel Jones. The Giants have to be ready to move on after this season unless Daniel Jones comes out guns a-blazing every week. And I mean guns a-blazing throwing touchdowns. Not just throwing interceptions, not incomplete passes. You better come out guns a-blazing throwing at least 2, 3, 4 touchdowns every damn game. Otherwise, Giants need to move the hell on. I tell you, last year I called him Danny Penny so many games because he was such a disaster out there. Saquon isn't fully healthy. That's going to be a question mark there. I cannot pick the Giants in this game. And again, people would tell you like, well, you don't always know what you're going to get out of Teddy Bridgewater. I know what I'm getting out of Teddy Bridgewater. I've been watching Teddy Bridgewater the last few years. He's a good, not great QB. Let's say that, but he's good enough to get the wins. He's got Melvin Gordon in his backfield. He's got Jerry Jeudy, who's one of the great receivers in the AFC West. Let's just leave it at that. I'm not going to oversell him. I cannot get this game to the Giants. I just can't. And I know that you might think I'm being a homer. I'm really not. I'm picking Denver just because I have way more faith in them. Broncos, 1,000%. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears headed to Los Angeles to face the Rams. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. I don't think the Bears are going to be able to score much on the Rams' defense. I think the Rams are, like I said, the Rams are one of those teams that don't play their starters in the preseason. So you haven't seen Matthew Stafford, you haven't seen Kupp, you haven't seen Woods or anything this year. They have Sony Michel now. They got him from New England to take some of the work out from Darrell Henderson. So they're just going to try and get everybody worked in. Right now, this is going to be a pretty easy game for them. As we know, this is the Sunday night game, and having Andy Dalton in prime time is almost as scary as looking behind you in your rearview mirror and seeing me driving the car behind you.
What can I say? My goodness. I was hoping, when I watched preseason and I saw the way Justin Fields was playing, I was hoping that Chicago would go with Justin Fields. They're not, though. To start the season, they are still going with Andy Dalton. I don't know what I'm getting out of Andy Dalton. I don't. And I'm not 100% convinced that he should be the QB1 there. He's got David Montgomery. Maybe that'll pan out in their favor. He's a solid RB1, but they're going to face the Rams. And that Rams defense is tough. Jalen Ramsey, hello. Aaron Donald, hello. Come on now. Stop it. There's no way the Bears can get this done. That's just how I feel. Am I 100% stole on Matt Stafford through an entire season? We'll see. He's out of Detroit. I think he's got better weapons there in Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and a running back in Darrell Henderson. We would definitely are going to see a different Matthew Stafford this season, and hopefully a much better one. I'm giving this one to the Rams. Absolutely. And last up, we got our Monday night matchup. We got the Baltimore Ravens headed to Vegas to face the Raiders. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, the Raiders always seem to get a Monday night game the first week of the year. I guess it's because they want to make sure that they get a game every year on Monday night. For some reason, the Ravens are the better team here. Obviously, they lost J.K. Dobbins, which is going to be very tough for them, but they still have Gus Edwards, who I really like this year. They're not going to have Rashad Bateman either in this game, so it's going to be tough for them. They're going to be down a couple wide receivers. They're going to be down, obviously, their starting running back, but they still have Lamar Jackson. And against that Raiders defense, that's enough. I would be careful if you bet because, like I said, for some reason, the Raiders just seem to pull out miracles on Monday night, and especially being at home, it's going to be very tough, but I am going to take the Ravens to win this game.
It's the Raiders. It's the Raiders. I picked, in my picks for this season, I still have to pick the Raiders to finish last in that division. Not sold on the Raiders whatsoever. And I like Derek Carr. And I like Josh Jacobs. I really like this kid, Josh Jacobs. I really do. I'm just not sold on the Raiders at all. And it more has to do with coaching than anything else. It's just coaching. That's really what it is. Ravens, admittedly, they did lose J.K. Dobbins for the season, and that's devastating for them. But they still got Gus Edwards there, you guys. They'll be fine there. Lamar Jackson is still one of the most spectacular QBs to watch. I love to watch him, and I'm excited for what he's going to be able to do this season. He's got something to prove. He wants to get this team into the playoffs and hopefully all the way to the Super Bowl. That being said, got to put together some of these solid games, especially against these weaker opponents. Giving this one to the Ravens, no questions asked. Well, you guys, that's all of our matchups. Dominic, I need you to give me one start and one sit, week 1 of fantasy.
Yeah, like I said, like we've been doing for the past couple of years, I don't want to just start Christian McCaffrey and sit some weird guy or whatever. But I will say the Eagles' rush defense has been playing very bad. I'm really high on Mike Davis this year. So I'm going to say start Mike Davis against the Eagles this week. He is a pass catch. Even though the running back's not always great in Atlanta, he's a very good pass catching down back. So he's going to get a lot of work this year. So he could be very good for you, especially in half PPR or PPR leagues. If you want to sit somebody, I would sit, at least for week 1, I would sit all your receivers in the Jacksonville and Houston game. You know, I mean, you could probably start Brandon Cooks, but it's tough to even see what he's going to do against Jacksonville. They're probably going to try and run the ball quite a bit. So if you have any pass catchers in Jacksonville or Houston, I would just sit all of them.
Fair enough. Those are the two terrible, terrible teams. Absolutely agree with you there. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have today. Want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my work on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
You can read my work on clubfantasy.com. You can read it on expandtheboxscore.com, footballguys.com, and theathletic.com.
That's all our time, you guys. See you back here next week.